Wow. What just happened last Thursday? I know many of you, and we're going to let the audience build a little bit today because we do have a special guest. Most of you out there on social media land probably saw that we have Darren Bailey joining us today. Obviously, Ryan's in studio with us, and we've got a lot of things to talk about today. But once again, if I would have known after last week's show, Thursday, that the debate would unfold like it did, you could not have told me that was what would transpire over the course of the CNN debate. In fact, now you almost wonder, like so many things in society today, whether it was truly somewhat planned that CNN was there to act as a conduit to getting Joe Biden um, out of office, So stay tuned. Obviously, the world is in the Democrat side of the aisle is coming off the rails in such a manner that I don't know how they can resurrect or even put in a switch hitter or a pitch hitter or whatever you want to call it. I think they are stuck with Biden. I truly do. I think that there's just too many factors in regards to campaign financing. I think there's too many factors in regards to state election laws. So getting Joe Biden out, I don't think is going to be the issue. I think it's a matter that Joe's in it to win it, according to Jill Biden. She'll tell you that because Joe answered all the questions. He did a great job. He answered all the questions. But we're going to talk a little bit about that. And we're going to talk about the big news here in the state of Illinois. We are without a chair for the party, and my guest will obviously share this with you because I somewhat borrowed it from him. Darren has always said we cannot restore Illinois until we restore the Republican Party. And the Republican Party is a lot like the Democrat Party on the national stage right now. And we were just talking offline that isn't it funny how the blue states somewhat have problems within their Republican organizations, where the red states, they don't have those problems. And then on a national level, the Republican Party, for the most part, does function, but we have our issues there. Obviously, the speakership is a big thing that sticks out, but we're trying to find our way because once again, there's pushback from within. The grassroots, the people are finally starting to become somewhat alive, and they're taking a stand and they're asking their representation, or they're asking for representation. They're asking their representatives to hear their voices. And so we're going to have a lot more. Once again, let me open it up and bring everybody on. Let's see how this works. But I think that everybody comes on when I hit this button. And look at that, like that. Voila. There they are. Obviously, Ryan Mac of the Ryan Mac Show.
Howdy.
And my good friend. And I don't know there's so many adjectives you can describe of Darren Bailey. So, Darren, thank you for coming on. What else can be said?
No, it's an honor. Thank you. I always never shy of an opinion. And when it comes to, saving our state and saving our nation, I'll always be there to do whatever I can do to help out, to inspire, to encourage, to warn, rebuke. Nobody likes that, but I seem to be pretty good at that. So,
well, so Darren, I know there's so many questions, but just with that short little opening, many thoughts came to my mind, because could you even begin to imagine back in was it 2020 that we started the Restore Illinois tour?
Yeah, right after. Yep. Open Illinois, Restore Illinois, right after the lawsuit. It sure was. It was the summer of 2020.
And so here we are. We're 4 years removed from that. And I know that we believed in our hearts and we prayed for restoration, and we continue to pray for restoration, because ultimately, at the end of the day, until the people of Illinois truly surrender their lives, because there's so much talk out there about moving forward as a Republican Party by moving to the left, And that seems to be the solution, right? Because
Yeah.
we haven't figured out that didn't work over the past 30 years. So we should do a little more of that. We just haven't moved far enough to the left. But could you imagine 4 years ago that we would be here and we wouldn't have? It seems like, and not to say we haven't made any progress, we have, but I would have never thought it would have been this slow. And yet we still have hope, right? Because we see more and more people getting involved, becoming precinct committee people, running for school boards, running for state rep, running for county boards, and the list goes on. And a lot of that was spurred because of Restore Illinois and the Bailey for Illinois campaign.
I'm just sitting here. As soon as you said that, I looked at the calendar. July 2nd. It was July 2nd of 2020 when the actual ruling came down in Clay County that the J.B. Pritzker was indeed unconstitutional. Now, we had a hearing prior to that, and the judge, that's when the judge, gave me the TRO, and nobody really understood what that meant. And that just meant that I was free from all of J.B. Pritzker's illegal mandates. And somebody, you remember those days? I mean, you remember our playgrounds and our communities, our schools and our city playgrounds? They were putting caution and police tape around those things so that no one would slide. I mean, that's where we've come from. That's where we've been. And I do remember as people were trying to understand what a TRO was, a temporary restraining order. I remember someone telling me that, well, they were having a Zoom board meeting because it was illegal to meet in person. And one guy said, well, basically what it means is if Darren Bailey wants to slide down the slide that we just got through saying no one could slide down, he can. So, I looked at those days with such hope, knowing that, yes, I sure did not dream that 4 years later we'd be here struggling with what we're struggling with. I surely thought back then that, gosh, it's change is coming, but unfortunately, for the most part, people haven't given up hope, but they just forgot how to fight. Nobody wants to stick their neck out. Nobody wants really to tell the truth. Sometimes our friends and our family and our neighbors, sometimes they need to hear the hard truth from us. And, well, we don't want to hurt anyone's feelings. What if we're wrong? And that's the mindset that I see happening right now. So, I'm so blessed that I've become friends with you. I'm honored and I'm thrilled and I'm encouraged that people like yourself now have taken to the radio waves, that you're doing what you're able to do. That, yes, the precinct committee, we're started just yesterday. I started making some phone calls, and I want to find out how many, David, and you planted this seed in my mind when we were talking the other day. I want to find out how many precinct committee positions are filled, like you said, that are actually filled by people who ran, got petitions, and are placed, not appointed. These are filled because back in in 22, just 2 short years ago, it was believed that roughly of the 10,500 precinct positions in Illinois, those are precincts, Democrat and Republican, that only about 2,500 were filled by Republicans. 2,500 of. So we do believe that obviously there's more than that now, because we saw evidence of that at our state convention. So yes, I'm happy that people are waking up. It's frustrating for me because I like to see things happen, that it's taking so long, but it's happening. That's the main thing. It's happening, and you're exactly right. I've always spoke of hope, and I remember the governor's campaign one time. Somebody said, "Well, hope's not an option." Oh my gosh! Well, if hope's not an option, then we're done with. I hope eternally, and hope right here on this earth that tomorrow is going to be better than today. And the only way that can happen is if we work hard to help make it that way. We together, not me, not you, not anyone, not President Trump. If we all work together and do everything within our realm, That's how we fix this. I was talking with here's something I am hearing a lot. So I'll be quiet right after this comment. Kind of all
fine.
three of you are hitting everything that you mentioned. Watching that debate with Biden. I mean, I'm embarrassed for him. I'm thinking, how in the world does he not have enough sense not to do this? How in the world does his wife not have enough sense and respect for him to allow him? How in the world is this country being run with someone so incompetent they can't even carry on, 3 sentences in a row? And I'm hearing the exact same thing that I've been hearing for the last 7 years that I've been involved in government. I'm hearing that from Democrats, and they're saying the same thing. Well, yeah, it's bad, but and who are we going to get to take his place? Who are you going to get to take his place? Switch parties. It's a mess. Here's what I hear. My granddad, my dad, my uncle, he'd roll over in his grave. They're sticking to this party that is gone, that no longer exists, that they have no idea, that this is the situation. So that's the Democrat front. These are people that's going to vote for J.B. Pritzker, Joe Biden. They're going to vote Democrat. But in a sense, we have the same thing over here on the Republican side of things. At least they're propping people up. At least they got people to prop up. And man, they get behind these people. Mm-hmm. Here on the Republican fence, we are void of leadership. These Democrats over here, they believe in their platform and they're representing it well. The problem is over here on our side of the aisle, we're picking people who have no idea what the Republican platform is. They have no idea what it means to be conservative. They think that we need to mimic what J.B. Pritzker and Joe Biden are doing, so everybody likes us and everybody votes for us. So that's I went way too long. I'm sorry about that. And that kind of summed a whole bunch up. But that's it's been an interesting last 2-3 days for me.
Yeah.
And plus, I've been on vacation for the last 10 days with my 4 oldest grandkids and my wife, so I haven't had a whole lot of people to talk to other than so yeah. Turn me loose here. Sorry,
tiny people. It's fine. No, I enjoyed those pictures.
We're gonna continue to turn you loose here.
Good stuff. And what better way to enjoy family than taking them on a vacation like that?
I believe that's a big point that I want to hit on. Is I put up this graphic from my Facebook page. And it basically states churches can't push back the darkness if they're getting entertained by it. Well, the Republican Party can't push back the darkness either if they're getting entertained by it. I'm not really conflicted because I don't celebrate the darkness, nor do I celebrate evil, the demons. And I truly believe that, yes, the powers of the principalities of evil are at work in the hearts of men and women throughout our nation. And we find it easy to say, and I don't, Joe Biden is Joe Biden. All the things that you can list, I'm not going to be like some of the other talk commentators that want to go on diatribes of, and not to take it, that's not a shot at anybody in particular, but I'm not going to berate these people because ultimately, as a person of faith, I got to pray for the wickedness. Jesus laid his hand on the people who were possessed. He casted out the devil. He casted out the demons. He didn't just stand back and point his finger and say, "You're possessed. You're an evil person. You're so steeped in your sin, you're never going to survive." No, those are the people that Jesus reached out to and laid his hands on. And the interesting thing about it is we are a people who believe that power actually exists in us, that we have the ability to pray into the darkness, to pray into the demonic possession of people, and that we can pray that away through the power of the Holy Spirit, through God, who can deliver people, who can reconcile people. And so I appreciate that, Darren, because one of the things that came to mind when you just said that, Ryan, about the vacation was Darren was on a forum out of Chicago with Rick Pearson from the Chicago Tribune. Who was the other gentleman that was the journalist there? Do you remember, Darren, that's been lifelong journalist up there? I can't remember his name, but he's been around the business. And then Sherry Bustos, former congresswoman of the 17th Congressional District.
Mike Flannery.
Mike Flannery. Mike Flannery. The Mike Flannery. How could I? Another Irishman. But Darren was on this forum, and no different than Trump walking into that CNN interview where it was believed it was going to be 3-1, and by no means do I believe it was 3-1. Yeah. I think that those folks realized that, shortly into the questioning, that they couldn't make it a 3-1 because they had to figure out how they were going to get through 90 minutes with this person that, wandered onto stage and had no idea why he was there or what he was going to do. So I think they were taken back. In fact, if you look at Jake Tapper right now and some of the things he's saying, he sounds like he's on Fox News rather, because he's calling it out. He's saying, wait a minute, people, we've deceived the public for too long.
You mean it wasn't a cheap fake? The debate wasn't a cheap fake. They actually saw with their own eyes that a guy on stage couldn't remember the thing straight.
Yeah. Well, so getting back to my point, Sherry Bustos was part of this forum. Darren Bailey is, it's 3 against 1. Fortunately, Rick Pearson could have been a little nastier, but he wasn't. Mike Flannery could have been a little nastier. He wasn't. But Sherry Bustos, she wasn't holding back. She was saying that Joe Biden was a good family man. And the reason I bring this up is because, Darren, you live out everything you say, the transparency, being on these types of platforms, doing what you do every day almost with the Darren Bailey Dailies. I know you took some time away from the Darren Bailey Dailies on your own Facebook page and media to be with your family, to take and relive a vacation that you took with your children, with your 4 oldest grandchildren. That's what a family man looks like. If Sherry Bustos were ever to want an idea of what a family man looks like, but then it really got me thinking. The people, like you said, that are all in, that are sold out on living the life as a neo-Marxist, socialist, Democrat, whatever you want to call this party that has devolved on the other side of the aisle, they believe their family, even in the sinful nature, and I agree, they try to hide it, cover it up. It's not functioning. But yet, is he a good family man because he doesn't, I don't know. You tell me, Darren, because it's sure you live out being a family man. Obviously, you have a family farm. You have your children all working around you and your grandchildren surrounding you. I don't know if I don't get it, because I think that's part of the equation for for the future of this great nation, is getting back to those principles.
It is. I hope by the grace of God that he allows me to continue this journey and working with people like yourselves, because you possess that as well. But being able to show the American people what we can do, because I've got another young man that I'm working with, and he calls me frequently, and he's kind of involved trying to work and trying to help out, and people are just using these young people as stepping stones. They're your typical politician you can't trust, and you have no reason to. People look at me on, you hear this all the time. Oh my gosh, he's interested in his social media likes or whatever. Well, I'm interested in getting the truth to the people. I'm interested in energizing the movement and taking back our state and our country. But you can do that while being real, while being us and being transparent. Yep. And overall, far and wide, that is missing. I can smell it out in a heartbeat. Matter of fact, I don't know, David Paul, if that was the last time you and I were talking on the show, or I might have even made a post. I'm getting closer. I don't know how I'm going to do this or not, but I want to be able to reveal the fake players, even in the Republican Party. Everybody knows that right now. If you call yourself a Democrat and you're running for office, you're a phony. You're a loser. You're destroying the freedoms from I don't care how good you think you are. By it's pretty awesome, because in the 2018, when I won the primary and was first seated in 2019 as a state rep, I think it was 2019 or 2020, we had the 2 remaining sheriffs here in the former 109th district Democrat sheriff in Jasper County, in my own home county, Clay, switched over before the next election to declare themselves Republicans. And that's happened in several other offices because they're understanding, they're slowly starting to understand that this isn't, this is nastiness if I continue to associate myself with that. But far and wide, even people that we look at and think that are good guys, man, are just interested. Sometimes you see marriages, are on the rocks because of some of this. Because if this is all about you, and people can sniff that out in a heartbeat. Somebody can stand up in front of the stage and say this, this is all he's interested in, but the people know different. Different. So you're the judge and you see that. And otherwise, other people say, well, I could never do that. Yes, you can. That's what built this country. That's what started us. You being involved, all while you maintain your marriage and raising your children and being with your grandparents. Yes, you can do that. And if I can help provide a blueprint and show you how to do that, I got my work clothes on today because I just got in here late. I got guys cultivating and working in the fields and spraying. And as soon as I get done with this, I'll be right back out with them again, working late. I got sidetracked because 2 guys said they wanted to work later. So that means bring them dinner. So I'll be bringing them something to eat to keeping them going so we can do all that. I'm here farming after these last 2 elections not being placed. I have another question I'd like for anyone else to consider. Some of these other people that have been removed of office or have quit or lost, or what are they doing? What are people doing out there? Do you know your legislator, your state rep, your state senator? Do you know them? What do they really do? Do they have a job? Is it an inherited money? Is it just this fake life that they've lived? That's another big problem with government is nobody knows. Someone shows up, and if they're charismatic and they got lots of money and lots of TV ads, they win elections. What do they do? What have they done? Where did they come from? We have got so much work to do to get this state and this country back. And anyway, kind of all about being real.
Well, and it's interesting. I wasn't quick enough on the trigger, and one day, possibly on the DPB show, I will be able to quickly pull up the little YouTube video of you saying I'm a hardworking man to when JB Pritzker was confronted with what his walk-up song would be in the debate at Illinois State University.
That was great.
The college baseball player was given an opportunity. They did a query to many people who were able to ask questions during the debate. This was towards the end of it. And one of the last questions was to both candidates, to JB and Darren Bailey. What would your walk-up song be if you had a walk-up song in baseball? And of course, JB he did sound like Joe Biden that night.
It was bad. I was embarrassed for him. He couldn't. I'm sitting there thinking, don't you know any songs? Because
JB, come up with
something big. We like to do big things. Well, yeah.
Sunshine on my shoulders. I don't know. It's a beautiful day. Things are coming up roses, because that's what you say, there's so many songs, but yours, obviously, I knew what it was going to be. And the crowd erupted, and these poor academics who were sitting in front of me,
they were booing and they were yelling, calling you a redneck, everything under the sun. I was sitting up in the higher sections hearing some of the conversations, and they were making fun of your accent. You're a Southern Illinois hick, and he shouldn't even be on the same stage. I'm like, okay. All right, cool. I'm just having fun.
Yeah.
He actually answered the questions.
Yes. Yeah. Well, that night, that's you. Yeah. You did a great job because you answered the questions. But there was a point in there, and of course, sometimes my mind gets so separated here on the show. But Darren, the part about that I think that leaning into is, what are these other folks doing? And here we have Bob Kelsey. He's a frequent flyer at the DPB show, and Pam and Bob.
David Paul, he's a perfect example. And you, David Paul, you reached out to me somewhere along the line. I don't remember the first time, but you called. I think you called me, or maybe I called you. You had I had Restore Illinois. And you had Illinois as our home. And I can't remember. I always remember seeing you because I was watching all the new people running, didn't have a clue, but you called me, I called, and we met. I drove up there to your hometown. We met at Panera. Bob Kelsey, he continues. Bob from Berwyn, I'll never forget it, because I struggle with names. And I was up there on his turf, and he walked through and he shook my hands, and he said something, and he still says that. He still reminds me, I looked at him in the eyes, and I acknowledged him. I acknowledged him as a person and a fellow brother. And we've become dear friends since then. And you don't find that. People don't do that. And Bob, he reminds me, keeping me humble, keeping me real, saying, don't forget who you are and where you came from, and representing the people. And
you're not going to forget who you are with Bob Kelsey, because he does keep it real. Bob, with your encouragement, shaking the trees up here and cooking, chipping away at the ice they call politics. But the point being is, where are these people now? Because it's part of the show. Another little thing, Bob is also saying one meeting, one convention, one SCC, Central States Committee member at a time. I will make, by God's grace, some change up here. He's working hard in the land of make-believe, which I call the whole state of Illinois now is the land of make-believe, because we're governed by a gentleman who truly, Darren, I put it up on my Facebook page. You said it right. You called JB a liar during that debate. And that's true. JB, like Joe Biden, they want to assign lying to us. Bottom line is the truth is the truth. You can't parse it. And it's not a truth. It's the truth. And I believe we know where the truth is. Because the truth is Jesus Christ. And no, I don't believe that everybody has to believe in Jesus. And I see us trending as a nation that we're getting some common sense. We realize that the 10 Commandments, which the founding fathers used for the Constitution that we have today, the constitutional republic we have, not a democracy, constitutional republic, they use the Bible. They use the 10 Commandments. They are guiding lights. This is, how do you hear the voice of God? How do you know you're a nation, one nation under God, if you don't have biblical principles to go by? But your point being, where are they at? That is something I want to kind of put up here, because Bob, you bring it full heart, or full turn, back to who represents us in the Central States Committee. And Darren, I know that you're prepared to talk about this always, but when you look at this list of GOP Central States Committee people, and basically each congressional district has a representative that is on this committee or part of this group. The list is pretty extensive. I'm looking at my screen. Here it is. I got it, so I can scroll. Let me get it back up there. Up. I got to get my fingers working right. But you have in the first district, first congressional district, Tim Ozinga. Second congressional district is Judy Deichelman. Third congressional district is Jeannie Ives. I found this list once again. You can go to Illinois Republican Party, and it says meet our team or something like that. And it's basically the people representing you. So the fourth district is Jay Rays, I'm sorry. And then the fifth district is Aaron Delmar. Sixth district is Sean Morrison. Seventh district, Mark Hosty. Eighth congressional district, Dean White. Ninth is Joan Lasade. Is that how you say that, Darren?
I don't know.
Yeah. 10th congressional. Yeah. Lasada. 10th congressional district is Mark Shaw. 11th congressional district, Laura Palestrini.
There you go.
Yep. 12th congressional district, Rhonda Belford. 13th, Miles Nelson. 14th district, Larry Smith. 15th congressional district, Jason Plummer. 16th congressional district, Jan Weber. 17th congressional district, Chad Weaver. And the reason I read that list off, Darren, and you kind of know where I'm going with this, when you mention where are the people who ran for office, and where, if they've lost, why aren't they making more noise? Well, this list of people, and the reason I pull it up right now is they're the people who are going to vote on a new chair for the state of Illinois. And the interesting thing, Darren, and I lived this, and I know you did because you were the candidate. Out of that list, there are probably about 3 or 4 people, 17 congressional districts, that actually supported Darren Bailey as for governor. Is that accurate, Darren?
Yeah, that's accurate. Yes.
I mean, we are looking
the rest of them. It's not as if they didn't support me. I fought against them the entire way. I am still fighting against them. It is the darndest thing. A couple of them, Chad Weaver and Dean White, they're awesome. I'm going to say that right now. They are awesome. I had a small part in helping Dean get his position. I fully support him. I'll call him from time to time, and he's been trying to be very active in meeting people, and I'll call him and say, hey, watch out over here and watch out over there, because they're just interested in money, or they're just interested in this or that. This is a person you should connect with. But there's a handful of these players on there that in the final hours of the governor's race threw $1,000 or $2,000, and they can sit there and say, now, well, I supported Darren Bailey. No, there was no support. I fought against them. I continue to fight against them, and it is because they don't want this accountability. They don't want it. These are the same people that have been involved for years in the Republican Party, and where is the Republican Party going, and where has it gone? And I pray that if we put the right person in charge, but they're not going to let it happen. So these are state central committee leaders. They are chosen by precinct committee people, by the county chairs. So this is why it is very important that if you're a new PC, you've got a tremendous responsibility. Or a year from now, when we start picking up petitions again, you need to run for precinct committee person in your county and win that. And if you've got a lazy or corrupt leadership, overthrow the chairman and take it over. It's happened in several counties. It's happening. And then you will have a say. Get out there, and Republicans aren't voting. So many of these votes to establish these state central committee people, and the votes that will pick a new party chair, well, they're weighted on the turnout of your county, of how many people voted. So that's why it's important to get a turnout for people to vote. But some of these people who are in these positions, they find themselves comfortable in these positions, and they realize that a weak, everything underneath them, if it remains weak, then they remain unchallenged, and that's what's going on. So they're going to select and be responsible for whoever the next party chair is. And, for someone like me to be involved, it makes it very difficult, because I've been very truthful about the Republican Party. Some people are talking about unity. Let's work together. But when are we going to flush the system to purify it? Yeah. Whenever I won the primary for governor, I think the people spoke. When you've got 6 people running and one person gets 57% of the vote, I think that's a pretty strong message. Yeah. But that didn't resonate with most of these people. Didn't resonate at all. And I had some pretty powerful people leaning into me. Don Tracy had recently become head of the party. I had some pretty serious, players and supporters wanting me to just, literally burn it down, what I usually get accused of anyway, to burn it down. I said, no. I had other people come along and say, hey, you could, solidify this and bring this together and bring unity. I tried to bring unity. I did. I left him alone. I was met with just frustration. All these big name donors that come out, and most of these people on this committee, they can say, well, no, I supported Darren because I gave, because I endorsed. No, big picture is they really did nothing. They wanted me out of the way, and they thought, well, if there's some chance that Darren wins, at least I can hang this flag here and say, look what I did. Because right now, 2 years later, looking at where our party is at, pretty well, in my opinion, it explains and it tells everything. It's not working.
Yeah. Well, you were the torch to their comfy sofa. They didn't like you coming in and throwing bombs in and changing things, and status quo is not working for the Republican Party in Illinois. and you came in and threw a grenade in the middle of it, and they didn't like that.
Right.
Well, so one of the things, Darren, and I do want to get to this because you hit upon something, and since you've been on the show last and coming back from vacation, just before you went on vacation with your grandchildren and your wife to go out to a free state of South Dakota, to Mount Rushmore, and to relive a trip that you took when your kids were about the age of your grandkids. So you took you have 4 children, and this time you took your 4 oldest grandchildren, because if you took all of them, you would have needed, as the old saying goes in Jaws, you would have needed a bigger boat. You would have needed a bigger camper. I don't know what size camper you take when you have, is it 13 grandchildren. 13 grandchildren in a camper with grandma and grandpa.
Oh my
that
God.
would have been epic, real life show. I mean, you talk about,
you would have needed longer than
TV.
Joe did for the debate.
Yes, that would have. But what I have up here, so what was decided before you went on vacation was what the charges brought against you by the Illinois State Board of Elections via our friend Mark Elias, the constant person for the Democrat Party who likes to sue Republicans because that's what he does best. But they brought a case against you, Darren, and it involved Dan Proft, and it involved communicating between a political action committee and a campaign. We know the rest of the story because, if anything, there was one person in that particular, case, or I should say, whatever you want to call it. They brought charges against you. I don't even know, what is it truly in the courts? It wasn't in the courts. It was.
Yeah, I don't understand. No, it could have had jail time and serious financial. Yes, I do not understand the proceedings but what the weight that the state board held. Yes, there were.
But it's a state board of elections, basically, is kangaroo court.
Yes.
I mean, they can impose civil penalties against you.
Right.
And it's not even a court of law, technically. Right. It's the Illinois State Board of Elections. So they brought this to the forefront. It obviously was dismissed. The people here on my show have heard the story over and over again. Dan Proft was trying to strong-arm Darren Bailey and the Bailey for Illinois campaign to gain favor, to take over the campaign so he could run it the way that Dan Proft believed that it should be run. And, right, wrong, or indifferent, that doesn't matter, because once again, all of that is behind us. But what is still with us is on the screen. When we talk about the Central States Committee, you look at here on the screen, and there is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, if I have it correctly, if I counted them right, 9 of those congressional districts. Here, let me jump back up to this bigger map so I can make sure I can count this. But it's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. I'm sorry, I really shorted it. 11 of those congressional districts touch the Chicagoland area.
Shocker.
Out of 17 congressional districts, 11 of them are influenced. So those people sitting on the Central States Committee. And I was querying about the next GOP, or the Republican Party chair. And they said, well, they're obviously going to have to get support of the Chicagoland area Central States Committee members. Well, that means it's 11. I mean, I can do the math on that. I'm not Joe Biden.
They've got 11 seats they need right there.
Well, they have 11 votes.
Yeah, that's good Lord.
So they control the outcome of who the next Republican Party leader is. And unfortunately, as you said, Darren, we don't have a big bench. And I don't see anyone who can step up. We went from Tim Schneider, and I don't remember who it was before Tim Schneider, because I know that he and Mark Shaw battled out at the end of Tim Schneider's term. And I remember Tim being at a few of our events that we had. Seemed like a nice guy, but once again, was he effective at doing the things we needed to do to restore Illinois? And a big part of the restoration is this, and Blaine Wilhauer says it best. The working class, the blue-collar class people are the Republican Party now. That doesn't mean there's not room for those people that have yachts on Lake Michigan, because there is. Unfortunately, their vote is one. And so is the person that Darren's going to take dinner to later in the fields down in Southern Illinois. They get one vote too. And ultimately, I guess that's what people don't understand. Most of the people in the Chicagoland area are not wealthy people. They're working class people. Mm-hmm. And that's where I kind of am conflicted that these Central States Committee people, because we all know how the game works. And you said it's time to name names and call these people out. We're never going to, we won't restore Illinois until we restore the Republican Party in Illinois back to the party of Lincoln and Reagan and Trump. And I would go as far as to say most of the people on the Central States Committee out of the 17 districts would not be pro-Trump. They might be now. They might say that they are, but that's not where they were before, where they thought there might be an opportunity for DeSantis or Nikki Haley to squeeze in there until it was very evident that wasn't going to happen. So, Darren, I don't know. How did I do at recapping?
No, you nailed it. About 1 hour ago, and I don't know if it's been released yet, but about an hour ago, the Republican Party Chairs Association, every county, did indeed endorse President Trump, and I was talking we were having a discussion with a person that this was her brainchild about 3 months ago, and I said that is a genius idea, because you're either gonna see the truth and they're not going to endorse unanimously, or you're going to force people to do something that's just going to, really mess with them. And that letter, I saw a copy of the letter right before this show started. So I was amazed. And a lot of these people, here's the deal. If you've got a politician out there that's voting for tax increases, not standing up for life, not standing up for the Second Amendment, you know what you have, and you can call that person out. Mm-hmm. That person needs to, to move aside. But Mark Shaw, Don Tracy, some of these other names, many of these people, they're good people. They really are. I'm not. If somebody had, exactly. I'll tell you if somebody's just an all out bad person like J.B. Pritzker, but they're good people and they intend well, but they're not. They're bad leaders. Yeah, it's just that's our problem. We're just settling for the good old boy to fall into that place. They are terrible leaders. There's no boldness. There's no courage. There's no standing up. Like I said before, I sued Pritzker. I thought, and I always fail to mention this, but several of the members of what are now the Freedom Caucus, they were going to be plaintiffs on the lawsuit against Pritzker, but Tom DeVore decided that, well, no, we just need you, Darren, and just so that we can make this thing's got to move, and it's got to move fast. If it's got a lot of people on it, it's held up. So I understood that, and that changed. But prior to that, I went to the Illinois Republican Party. I went to the Illinois House and the Illinois Senate groups, because they're all full of lawyers. I said, let's sue J.B. Pritzker collectively. They wanted to have nothing to do with that. They were scared to death of repercussions. So, that's not leadership. And we are void. I sit here right now and I think, who could be the next leader of the GOP? And I can't think of anyone that I would trust or who could get out there and get no one other than some. And that's a shame.
Yeah. Oh my gosh. Your audio, DPB.
I didn't want to have my mic on as I was drinking my water. I definitely need to get a producer in here. But Darren, aren't you impressed that I can walk around this thing and I can share screens and everything?
Actually, this is impressive. I'll give you
my
that.
wife is pretty amazed because she said you're not that efficient at home, but that's a whole nother story. Because I'm a unitasker. I want to do one task, get it completed, and then move on to the next task.
Yeah.
This whole
my wife will tell me that I single task really poorly. So I have that one task that I don't do very well. So she does most of the tasks.
But Darren, I was on the call last night with the county chairs with Rhonda Belford. And once again, I want to do two things in the next 100 days, or I guess we're down to 90 days now before early voting starts. I want to save our country, and I want to put Trump back in the White House. So right now, I am friends with every person who polls a Republican ballot and those who will poll, or I should say vote for the Republican Party. I know there's plenty of persuadable Democrats who have seen the shift, not the guy from California, Adam Schiff, but the true shifting of the party and where the Democrat Party has moved to. And I was on that call last night, and Rhonda Belford, the chair of the chairs, was the one who brought that to emotion. And it was interesting because it seemed like maybe a dissent to have some discussion, but that got moved along really quickly, and it was unanimous. Now, the downside to that county chair call that happens every month, and I'm glad that I am a vice chair, and my chair happens to be on vacation with his family, and he asked me to sit in as his pro temp. Is that what you call it, a pro temp or something like that? I was the acting chair for McLean County. And so I was able to cast my vote in an affirmative of, yes, of course, we are all going to vote for Trump. But it's 102 counties. We had a quorum, but we did not have maybe 25, 30% of the counties represented on that call last night. So I understand that life is busy, but it gets back to what you said about leadership and taking this serious and moving our country along. And I'm not saying we need them all, but we do need more people holding the line, standing up. Yes, they're good people. I believe Don. I enjoy talking to Don, because we can talk about a lot of things other than politics. I can talk with, I like the status of people on social media when they share pictures of their family and different events going on in their lives. But at the end of the day, in order to save our state and to save our country, we need to be bold and courageous, as you were, Darren. And I remember that July 2nd. You know why I remember? Because I was sitting in the courtroom. And when Judge McCaney said he was going to rule, and the time had run out, we were past the time. It was 4:00 in the afternoon. And I remember the press gathering outside from all the news media stations.
I remember the video. I was watching them live after that court hearing. It was great.
And I walked out there in my own one and only suit. I didn't realize you could dress down in the summer in a courtroom like that. Somebody was thinking I was from the FBI. And especially in Clay County. But I remember the judge's ruling, and I remember going home, and I remember quickly how you were attacked by the media, how much it was just a ploy and how much it only included you, Darren, and that it wasn't going to be. Yes. I mean, but isn't it
little
funny
pissant in Southern Illinois thinks he can take on Pritzker and the Democrats? He's denying science. Are you anti-masker?
Yeah, but the thing is what came out of that, and Mary's got she's chiming in here. The Republican Illinois GOP needs to grow a spine. This is why Illinois is crippled liberal state. GOP needs to respond to action and take talking heads. Thank you, Darren Bailey. But my point being about that is here the Supreme Court ruled yesterday to presumptive immunity for the President of the United States.
Yeah.
That will ultimately benefit people like Joe Biden.
Yeah.
Now, it won't benefit Adam Kinzinger and Liz Cheney and a whole host of other people who are going to be brought up on charges, which they should be. But
Yes.
but you see the fallout and the way the media quickly, they always talk about the Republican pounce, how the Republicans pounce on things. No, it's you that pounce on things, media. You're the ones, because you don't like the way that things are going. So you quickly pounced on it. And the same reaction to your case back in 2020 was similar to the reaction of the Supreme Court ruling yesterday. In fact, Joe Biden came out, and of course, he started doing what JB did a couple weeks ago, or whatever. He talks about Darren Bailey or President Trump. He calls you guys everything in the book, but human. Once again, I don't disparage JB for any of his ways other than his policies. You're either on the mark or you're not, JB. Joe Biden, you're either on the mark or you're not. If you want to label people this and that and extremists and, every other name in the book, we're reliving that again and again and again. And that was my point, is that Joe Biden talked about no one is above the law. And that's what your lawsuit was about against JB.
Yeah.
He was acting outside of the Constitution, and that's what was founded. Ultimately, Tom DeVore sued him again, and the mask mandate, and that was founded by Judge Gershaw, right?
Yes.
Gershaw. And so Joe Biden says that no one's above the law, but the Supreme Court ruled that you could not have loan forgiveness of student loan debt. And what did Joe Biden do?
He forgave it anyway.
No one's above the law, Joe.
Yeah.
No one's above the law.
How much money did he send to Ukraine without congressional approval? That was above the law.
Wow.
Yeah.
I mean, you can go on and on with a list of things he actually did that were official acts that weren't supposed to be acted. So
the only reason I bring this up, Ryan and Darren, this is how I kind of want to end the show today, because 2 days from now, we will celebrate the 248th anniversary of the Constitution of the United States of America. And as the title, I didn't get it fully in the title, but this is about life, liberty, and the pursuit of freedom. Darren, give us the hopeful message, even in the midst of what many probably felt during the Civil War, because we truly are battling here in the state of Illinois for the freedom that is provided to us through our God-given rights.
I appreciate that. We still live in the greatest country the world has ever known. Don't forget that. We still have at our fingertips the ability to exert change and to enact change. And all we have to do is get out and talk to our neighbors, have these discussions at the coffee shop. It's okay to be politely informative on social media. We don't have to be derogatory. We don't have to run anyone down, but we can tell the truth in love and get that out. But we have to vote. The men and women that served our country, it served in wartime or not, the men and women that were on D-Day and on all of these who laid down, we just celebrated them in Memorial Day. The men and women who maybe just were in the back room pushing papers but served in our military. They sacrificed time. When they signed that dotted line, they had no idea what was coming, but they said, I'm available. This is what I want to do. I want to serve my country and be available. Some of them sacrificed everything. Some of them came home with lifelong wounds, whether physically, mentally. But they gave of themselves to protect our freedoms. And the only doggone thing that we have to do today, the only obligation that someone like myself that didn't serve, is to simply show up and vote, to uphold those freedoms. And when we have a governor's race in 2022, when 44% of registered voters, this is where it's all at. of everyone who is old enough to vote, only 70% are registered. And of that 70, only 45% of that 70 are showing up. And this latest primary here in Illinois, on average, about 20% showed up. That's disgusting. And if that continues, we will lose these freedoms. And all you got to do is just get educated enough to understand. You don't have to be glued to CNN or Fox News, but understand who to vote for. Make sure that everyone in your family and in your circle is registered to vote, and make sure that early voting's fine. Get out there and get your vote in however you need to do it. There's a lot we need to clean up, but I have confidence that when you put your vote in, yeah, I'd like to go back to paper balloting. I had a bill when I was a state representative, go back to paper balloting. I agree with all that, but you know what? It's not here right now. And if we don't participate, if we think we're just going to rebel against the system and not show up, well, then we're costing our children and our grandchildren these dear freedoms that you and I have been able to enjoy in our lives. So just get involved, get informed. You can watch the DPB show, get on my Facebook page and my social media, and I'll just hit it. We're hitting the truth and let you know who these goofballs are. But the bottom line, you, I, our friends, our family, we've got to be involved. And that's how we say, that's the hope. And I know that when we get involved, truly run for precinct committee person, run for a county board, school board, whatever, we will begin to turn this great ship around.
You know, Darren, that what amazes me about Darren Bailey is this. That's the same message that he was telling me in the Panera on South Veterans Parkway back in 2017. And I don't mean to correct you, Darren, here live on the DPB show, but what happened was, how we were introduced to one another is, I happened to be running for state rep because I was watching a gentleman on social media. His name was Senator Kyle McCarter. He had an accounting background. He owned 4 different businesses. He also had an international mission in Kenya. And he had already imposed term limits on himself. He ran for Congress at one point, but he was the one who spoke to my heart. I believe it was the voice of God via Kyle McCarter. And this is when, in 2017, when an amendment or a bill was being proposed to raise the gas tax by the gentleman I ran against, Dan Brady. And he was adamant that he wanted Dan Brady out. And he knew what was going to happen. He knew that the chances of me removing Brady were slim and none. But somebody had to stand up and push back.
Yep.
Little did he know, as he was appointed after leaving the state Senate, he was appointed by Donald J. Trump in 2019 to be the ambassador to Kenya, which is very rare that a state senator becomes an ambassador. The reason he became an ambassador was because he was already on the ground for 13 years with an international mission called C1 Feed One. Did I get that right, Darren? Yeah. Okay. And so he's the one who said, at that time, his legislative aide was a gentleman named Jose Durbin, who worked instrumentally with Darren on many campaigns. And he basically said, Darren, you need to reach out to this David Paul because he needs somebody like you, because he could see that I was probably not heading in the right direction, other than I was just ambitious. And I knew that this is where the fight was. But Darren, my point being is your words resonate because you have never changed your story. Mm-hmm. It's about us. It's about you. It's about me. If we don't get involved, there isn't a plan B. In fact, it's interesting because I know how much scripture means to you. This is getting to the point of the voice of God. You want to hear the voice of God? And what the pitfalls can be? Here's a pitfall. Be disinformed. The scripture says, my people, this is Hosea 4, chapter 4, verse 6. My people are destroyed for a lack of knowledge. Ephesians 4:18. They are darkened in their understanding and separated from the life of God because of the ignorance that is in them due to the hardening of their hearts. Our hearts have to be, we've got to soften our hearts. If anyone turns a deaf ear to my instruction, even their prayers are detestable. Proverbs 28:9. You know, there's a reason there's a movement in this country to return to the founding principles. 248 years ago, men sacrificed it all. Out of our founders, Darren has shared this with me many times, out of those founders who pledged everything, very few of them survived beyond, a normal lifespan back then, because they put it all on the line. And that's what our country was founded on. And I know that some people say, no, I don't want to give it all. I'm ready to give it all. And I'm looking for the few good men and women to do that. And I know we have those people. Yes, it's easy to be, to lose focus. It's easy to lose that spirit, that fight, as Darren talked about. But folks, we've got 90 days. I don't know what happens November 6th if we wake up and Donald J. Trump is not our president. I don't know what this nation looks like. I don't believe it will be one nation under God. I know that Joe Biden says that Donald Trump will, change the course of history and will be a dictatorship and everything else like that. Well, unfortunately, Joe, you don't have a record to prove that, because his record speaks for itself. He was the greatest leader when it came to protecting the Constitution of the United States of America. And that's what we need to get back to. Darren, we're here at an hour. Thank you for being with us today.
Thank you.
We're going to have you back because that the July 12th will be at the point when Central States Committee people, those 17 names I listed off, they will be given. There's a select committee that will pick a candidate, and then they will vote on our party chair. And so we are going to be covering that. Obviously, this is very important to the restoration of the state of Illinois. Darren hasn't walked away. I know that there's a big movement with a gentleman we saw back in 2020 on the steps of the state capitol, Brandon Strzok, who had a movement called Walk Away, but it was walking away from the Democrat Party. Darren's not walking away. I don't believe you're going anywhere, Darren, are you?
Nope.
You're not annexing.
We're not running. We're just waiting for whenever God shows us where our place and position is. So,
yep. Well, and as I've learned, there's three answers we're going to get. There's the yes, the no, and wait.
Right.
And usually, most of the time, it's wait.
Right.
And most people have a hard time because we want to see it now. We want to see it right here, right now. We want to live it today. But ultimately, as we opened up the show, we started this journey with a group of men and women who were willing to jump on a bus and tour the entire state of Illinois, not for self-gratification, not for financial gain, not for political gain, but to restore the state of Illinois. And little did we know that 4 years later, we would still be in the fight.
Yep.
You know what? We're going to put some new wheels on the bus. I can't wait till God unfolds what is next. But I know one thing, speak, Lord, your servant is listening. And I know you guys feel the same way. Yep. Well, once again, thank you. I know we're at a little overtime, but thank you, Darren. Darren, so when I turn the stream off, you're still here with me. And Ryan, I just want to give you guys some personal thanks. But for all of you, once again, we're live Tuesdays and Thursdays. We haven't made a decision to change the time from 4 to 5, but we are live. You can watch this at any time. Please like and share, subscribe, because we're going to see some big news next week. We're going to have a special guest on the show because conservative talk is continuing here in Central Illinois, and we're going to expand upon that. I can't break the news yet because it isn't official yet, and I don't want to do what most Republicans are accused of doing, pouncing on breaking news. But there are big things coming ahead. God is working. As I say, I love you. Jesus loves you more. And until next week, I bid you all a farewell.